Well, hey guys, welcome to the weekly Community Christian Church podcast. We say weekly, we hope we'll be back next week after this first week. But glad you guys are with us. I'm Jason, got Ed on my right. Nathan's over here on my left.
Hello. Ed is the one that is laughing uncontrollably. If you can't see us, if you're listening to us, Ed is the.
I have funny things in my head.
Funny to you. They are funny to you.
So we decided, you know what? Everybody's listening to podcasts, watching videos on YouTube these days, and why don't we use that to come to you guys?
Everybody.
And
even you
right now, and talk about some stuff that maybe we don't get to talk about on Sundays that we think is important, and stuff that maybe isn't important that we think. And
it's important to us, and we have cameras and microphones.
That's right. So glad you're here, and if you want to keep getting these on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're on the podcast feed, make sure to subscribe to that as well.
Give us a 5-star rating if
Always.
that's possible.
Absolutely.
Because I personally like that.
Yes.
And we're working.
Whether you think we are 5-star or not, please just do that for us.
I hear people say that does something in the algorithm, and I so badly want to do the algorithm.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
We are big algorithm fans, constantly making our own.
Algorithms.
Sometimes I just make them up in my head.
He doesn't even know what those are. That's what's funny. Okay, so we currently have no name for the podcast. We're asking people to give us some suggestions, and we haven't settled on one yet. So if you've got one, throw that in the comments. And we want you to send in questions as well. So if you've got questions that you want to hear our wise answers to,
Or dumb questions you'd like to hear dumb
answers.
Smart questions, dumb answers,
Yes.
whatever order you want.
You know, I think the other thing that would be cool is if you have friends that you know that don't go to church and they
Absolutely.
have questions, we would love to answer their questions, and what we would do is then cut these answers, if they're worthwhile, into small little segments that you could even share just the answers. We'd love to be able to do that, so send us their questions.
Yes, absolutely. Or just things that you're having conversations with people about and you feel like you couldn't get into it as much as you wanted to or anything, even if it's not a specific question. If there are things that you think, hey, my friend wants to hear about this or they're talking to me about this.
Right.
Sometimes that's a great way to just begin conversations or continue conversations.
All right. So let's start with, it's a new year. We started off a brand new series on Sunday called Best Year Ever. Yes. And why don't we talk a little bit about what was the rationale behind why we wanted to do this series, what we're trying to accomplish with this whole thing?
Well, I think, everybody knows going into the year, most people are thinking about new stuff, whether they make a resolution or they don't make a resolution. It's a great time. I mean, it's just naturally when we sort of think about that stuff. And we wanted to try to give a better handle on how to not keep failing, because you also know that statistically, most of us fail at the stuff we decide to do. So let's talk about how not to just keep falling into the same trap, because there is a way to make it where you can succeed. And so that's what we were trying to do in this short little series.
Yeah.
So.
And we just did the best Christmas ever. So
you had to take that.
We're so creative that we had to do Best Year Ever.
What was it? I think the original title was Atomic Habits.
Based on the book.
Based on the book. And then we thought, Nobody knows what that means. They might think we're about launching bombs on people, which we're not.
We're not.
We love everybody always.
Just so that any kind of other algorithms that might put us on any kind of list.
Sorry.
We are not doing anything with bombs.
This is why they don't trust me
Stop
with
saying that word.
Yes,
no explosive devices.
Stop saying that too. Okay.
So Atomic, we decided to change for that reason. We knew it didn't mean anything, but Best Year Ever it's about what the people want. I want to be better. Everybody believes better is possible.
Maybe it's helpful too to explain, one of the reasons we didn't is because Atomic Habits, atomic doesn't mean much to most people, but the idea behind it, and really what we're going at in this series, is making small changes on at least an atomic level, a very small level, that these small changes over time, if you consistently make them, they can have big results. And that's really what we're trying to get to in the series. It doesn't have to be some massive change to your life up front. You can make big changes by making small
changes. I think I used the illustration this morning in staff meeting of with me and weight loss. Through the years, I've lost, 400, 500, 700 pounds, just at different times, and you gain it all back. And I would set these goals of I'm going to lose this amount of weight by this amount of time. And goals are good in pointing you in a direction, but they don't necessarily help you get there every time I've ever been successful, it's been a little thing, and it really is a small thing to do that's made me successful. It's really not even about the food you eat, it's being aware of the food you eat. And when you start tracking the food and you make yourself write down everything you put in your mouth and you track it and you add it up, you just become more aware. That's the Weight Watchers method for those of you who would know. It really is that simple thing. I'm going to track and I'm going to do it religiously. It changes everything. Same things with money.
Yeah.
I mean, when I start tracking money, I get better at handling money.
Yep.
Well, we know this is just a general principle in things, because I think about this, and you all have had young children. I have been a young children in your house, and but right now I have 4 young children in my house, and I think about anytime it's time to clean anything up, there's a giant mess, because that's what happens when you have 4 children, giant mess. And the moment I say it's time to clean up, I can't do it, it's too much. But literally, the advice, I think probably every parent, at least is the advice I give, is, well, pick that up. Pick that one thing up. There's a big mess, but if you pick one thing up, then you go pick up the next thing. But all of us tend to look at my life as this big mess, or this part of my life is this big mess,
Or
and
this
I don't know.
goal is huge. that I
Yeah,
wanna get
yeah.
to.
I can't climb this mountain, but you climb it one step at a time, or you pick up one thing, or whatever it is. And so
Well, that's really the heart of what we talked about. And part of it Sunday is we all focus on the stuff I don't like about my life. So my goal needs to be to fix this thing. I don't like that I'm overweight, or I don't like that I spend too much money, or I don't like that I'm not spending enough time with my kids. So I set a goal, and we think the goal is going to fix it, but we don't think about what am I going to have to do minutely to get that done.
Becoming the type of person that is that,
Yes.
that reaches that goal.
Yes.
Which is, okay. Speaking of that, habits in particular, you guys working on any habits this year? Or because we've been reading that book, Atomic Habits, as a staff.
Yep.
Are there any things that you guys are
Becky
working
and I
on?
have a new one. I read this book last year, and I put some in place last year that I'm still getting ingrained in my life. I'm always working on the keep my weight in the right place, so tracking is a thing that I do. But Becky and I started, believe it or not, this is going to sound stupid to people, I'm doing yoga.
Wow.
good for you. That does not sound stupid to me. I like that.
I do too.
It sounds stupid to me, but I'm doing yoga
Good for you.
right now, and again, as a way of doing all the stuff that we need to do. It's a small little thing, so I try to make it where it's inevitable that I'll do it at night. I put a part of it in when I leave the house in the morning. There's a little thing I do to put in place that I would either have to move it to not do it, or I do it. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm going to have to move it one way or the other, so I might as well do it. And so far, that's the new habit I'm trying to get in place, is that I know at my age I need to at least stay limber.
Yeah.
I need to not get my muscles too tight and my bones, I need it. So I'm a yoga guy.
Hey. And now that
do
you
not-
know you're a yoga guy, you have to do the things a yoga guy
That's
would
right.
do.
I've decided.
So get a man bun. That's number one. That's what a yoga guy would do. And in some yoga
some
pants.
tights.
Yoga
I
pants.
just want to make the suggestion in the editing right now. Joel, if you could superimpose man bun on me.
Let's make that happen.
See, I was just about to say I don't want visuals of any of this.
Oh, okay.
Any of this yoga stuff, I don't
I
want
see, I was
any
going to say
visuals.
the other. For everything we say, constant cartoons. Animation of everything that we say, if that could happen.
So anyway.
I'm always, my wife makes fun of me. About every 2 or 3 days, I'll come home and go, there's a new thing I want to do. There's a new thing I want to do. And her constant thing is, what are we doing? Making our own shoes now? Like, do we make our own shoes? Are we those people now? So, yeah, there's a lot of things. But the biggest thing I'd say is really carrying over a lot of the stuff I've started over the last year and a half or so, and just buckling down. Because for me, it's really easy to make plans, and it's very hard to structure my life in a way that those things happen. And so
So I know you changed. How long has it been since you became a gym person?
I'm a gym guy now.
You're
He
a
is a
gym
gym
guy.
guy.
I'm a
You're
gym guy now.
time.
I started in April of 2018, I think is correct. 2018, April of
Okay, so
2018.
you're coming up
so.
on 2 years of being a gym guy.
Coming up on 2 years of being a gym guy. So yeah, that's one that I really want. Honestly, I think the bigger thing in my life right now is going to the gym a little less, because I became very obsessive about it, as I do about a lot.
Keep a gym guy.
Do you lift,
The guy I hate when I go to the gym.
That's right. That's right. Those guys that you don't want to be around. And so I went from never going to the gym to, and I'm sure we'll talk about stuff like this going forward, but in order to create the habit, I knew if I gave myself any way out of it, like if I allowed myself not to do it, then that's the first step. It had to become, and this is the big phrase around my house at least, is it has to become part of my rhythm of life. That I just create this rhythm that I don't feel like myself. And so starting in April of 2018, I just said, we're going to go to the gym every day, even if I can only stay for 10 minutes, which really doesn't do a lot. I mean, you're not doing anything in 10 minutes, but the fact of being in the gym every day means that the days I can be there an hour or an hour and a half, something is happening, and I'm allowing those days. So that's been a big thing. But around that time also, I started making sure I went to bed earlier, because I have a tendency to, and I know all of us are this way, at least we love TV and movies and, books. We're all pretty big readers, and I kind of want to get as much of everything as I can in and not be out to date. So just watching less TV, so I went to bed a little earlier. I could wake up a little earlier, have time to kind of pray and make sure I was out of the house on time. So those things are big. The holidays really took a lot of those rhythms out. Especially I've got 4 kids, so 2 are in school, and so when they're not in school, like it's a whole different thing for them. And so I was just very much out of my routine. So right now I think the habit is just, it's not necessarily a new habit, but it's a matter of getting those habits that have been, life-changing for me in the last 2 years, just back in and making sure they're consistently happening.
Mine's the same way. Yeah, I was going to say mine's the same way, because I've got these habits that I have going on, but sometimes they're sporadic. They're not as regular as I'd like them to be.
Yep.
Like my discipleship group that I'm in, where we read every day the scriptures and we check in with one another. Sometimes I would do that very first thing in the morning. Sometimes I put it off till I got in the office, and then sometimes if I did that, it would get pushed off till lunchtime. And I was sporadic, and I wanted to make it pretty regular, part of my rhythm. And so I'm working on stacking. This is another thing I learned in the book, but stacking some habits together and linking them together. So like my morning cup of tea, which is what I drink in the morning, not coffee, but I pair that with my Bible reading and just trying to stack those good. And then now I'm trying to add to that some physical activity, which I'd gotten out of the habit this past year that I used to be really good at, that I'm definitely not as consistent as I should be. So I'm trying to get the rhythm going of first I do this, and then that leads to this, and all that kind of stuff, and just line them up for me. That I'm a details kind of process kind of guy. You guys know that about me. I'm a systems guy. So if I have a system, I love working the system because it makes me feel very organized, and that's how I like my life to be. But then I tend to get unorganized, and then I have to, so that's what I'm working on.
Hey, I want to say something, to people watching this, and I don't know who's watching this. Maybe nobody's watching this.
Whatever.
But if you are watching this and you heard him talk about discipleship group, that's a part of something we do around here, that if you're thinking about, I guess in any way you're trying to deepen your spiritual life by watching this or being a part of Community Christian, I just offer you the opportunity to be a part of one of these. I can't get you into one maybe today, but I'd love to know you're interested in developing a regular rhythm, that's what we call it, of a way to do daily life with Jesus. And that's what it's been for me. It has been life-changing for me. We as a staff have been doing it about 6 years now. And it has literally, it's revolutionized the way that I follow Jesus. And I think it would for almost anybody that would get into it and do it long enough, stick with it. So if you will email us at help@community-christian.net, we will get you your name, and we will contact you about being in one of these. And they're gender-based, so if you're a dude, we'll help you get with other dudes, and if you're a lady, we'll get with some other ladies.
And what we do in that is basically take what we just talked about as far as habits, small little things every day, and then they build up over time. We're just doing that with spiritual life.
That's right.
Because some of the stuff that you do on a daily basis seems insignificant at first.
That's right.
But when you do it for 5, 6, 7 years, it becomes a rhythm of life, and then your mind is just there all the time.
That's right.
At least mine is.
Yeah.
I'm way more conscious these days of my moment by moment following of Jesus.
Me too.
Him being a part of my life than I ever have been.
Well, and I think it's hard for me to even, like you talked about, what are the habits? A lot of the habits in my life have come from discipleship, and I didn't even see it at the time. But like that beginning habit, the thing you were talking about just a second ago, of there's this dailiness to the email and having, or a dailiness to the contact with the people in your group, and the dailiness of reading the scripture and dailiness of just reading from the life of Jesus, that for me was not happening consistently before discipleship.
None of us was.
And so once that started and just seeing the life of Jesus and you get to know Jesus, it does create this hunger for more of Jesus. And then you begin coming up with, and we talk about this a lot in discipleship, but like these life plans or rhythms of life that now allow me to, in with my personality and my current stage of life and my way, are there habits and routines I can put in place that make me go even closer to Jesus in these things. And so even a lot of the things, honestly, me going to the gym came out of just this dailiness of me going, I don't have the kind of energy that I want to have, and I don't have the kind of, I'm not around the kind of people that I want to be around. And you know what I mean? So like these other things that for me have been huge life changes, I can see how they are a result of this other stuff. But 6-7 years ago, I would not have even tied any of that stuff together.
Okay. So let's back up, talk a little bit about anything else from Sunday that we missed. We obviously are talking about the series, but Sunday was the kickoff of the year, which for us is a kickoff of a new semester, which means small groups started up, and we are all jumping back in to our small groups. Hopefully you guys are as well. We wanted to make a mention of that as well. If you're at that place, you're looking for a connection with some people, building relationships around here, right now is the time. So I guess we'll just use the same email address.
Yeah,
right?
Send it to help. Tell us what you want.
Yeah, and then a couple weeks ago, Nathan, you introduced the 31 Days of Prayer. Talk a little bit about that, how that's going, and where we're at on that.
Yeah, well, my hope is that, I guess we're recording this on the 7th. Is today the 7th of January? So we're 7 days in. I hope everybody is joining us in this, and if you haven't yet, that's okay. You can join us now. But the general idea behind it was just that we would have 31 days that were dedicated to people in our church, praying for our church, and praying for God to use us. And I know for a lot of my life, more life than my life than I'd probably admit, even more of my time working at the church than I'd like to admit, prayer was not even at the top of my list of things that I thought it was going to take to get what I needed to get done, or what we knew needed to get done. And about the same time when I started kind of doing all the gym stuff, it just became clear God's the one that motivates this. It becomes clear Holy Spirit's the one who calls people to Him and draws people to Him, and there's a way we get to partner in all of that. But prayer is this way, and I love the way Dallas Willard, and all of us love Dallas Willard and a lot of his stuff, but he talks about it as prayer is, he said it would be a dull life if prayer was just seen as some kind of thing that we have to do and not as a necessary part of, he says, co-laboring or just working with God, that we're called to work with God, and talking with God is a part of that. And so my hope is a lot of you guys are doing that you're talking with God about how He could use you personally in the relationships that you're in, but also just our church in general, that God would be moving and doing powerful things.
And that guide that you gave us, 31 Days of Prayer, is still on both AshleyParkChurch.com and SharpsburgChurch.com.
Yep.
So, yeah, jump in, please.
Okay. Anything else from last Sunday? Anything I missed? Anything you didn't get to say?
I don't know if there's anything I didn't get to say. I wish I had had more time really to talk about the identity part. I think it's so huge that instead of trying to change what you don't like about yourself, inevitably we become a collection of the way we see ourselves. The habits we have, good and bad, are most likely a reflection of the identity that we have. And if you really want to get to it, you need to begin to change the way the identity. I know James Clear in one of the places, he's the guy that wrote Atomic Habits, talks about the fact that if you really want to stop smoking, is the example he uses, at some point when somebody offers you a cigarette, you don't need to say, oh, I'm trying to stop. What you need to say is, I'm not a smoker. And if you can get deep in your head, I'm not a smoker, and you live with that long enough, yes, you'll still have the physical desire, but you begin to develop habits to back up this identity. I'm not a smoker. And that's why I'm trying to say, hey, I'm a yoga guy. I'm a guy that I'm a guy that's I'm doing this. I'm gonna try to do this thing. So
cool.
And I love that. I wanted to just say, I love that, and I love the little moment we had at the end of the service with that song, Who You Say I Am, and that whole thing. And I think spiritually, there's a huge weight to that. Paul eventually says that we see ourselves as dead to sin. It's not that we don't struggle with sin, it's just this is our identity now. This is, I'm just like Christ died and raised, I've died to sin, and I've been raised to new life. And there does seem to be this thing, in a lot of us, it just feels like, well, I'm always going to struggle with this.
Right.
I'm always going to do, because that's just who I am. I'm a liar, or I struggle with lust or any of these different things. But getting to this point of realizing, no, I'm dead to this sin, and I need to live as if, that's true. And
Yeah,
I
I have carried that around really as a problem. Most of the time I've been a Christian of just saying, well, this is who I am. This is who I am. And God certainly forgives me, and he doesn't hinder me from being used by him. But I'm just this way. I'm an angry guy. I'm just an angry guy. And I'm trying to deal with it, but I'm sorry. You're going to have to forgive me. God forgives me. But the truth is, that's not who I am. I am not. I am a guy who is loving, peaceful, patient, kind, gentle. I need to live with that as my identity as well, instead of just consistently reinforcing this thing that has become the thing that I don't like.
And I remember
I'm not saying you speak anything into existence.
No, no.
I don't mean that it just naturally happens. But I do need to reinforce what I want to become.
It's a state of mind.
It is. It really is.
It's where you start from.
Well, I remember, and it was in a message you gave, and this was years ago, but it always stuck with me. And I don't know if this is your analogy or an analogy you've heard, because all of us are constantly taking other people's analogies. But
Without giving credit.
yes, we don't give. But no, I don't
okay.
know. But I thought it was great, and it's always stuck in my mind. But the idea of you've sold a car, and you suddenly realize, oh, I've kept the keys to the car, and you go and try and drive now another person's car. That's really an apt way of, I now given up my rights to this sin or
Right.
this thing. But somehow, occasionally, I just show up and go, well, I can still dabble around with that, but it's not yours anymore. And I thought that was such a great, and I think that's
really
a
is
great
a
way
good
of
thing.
saying it's not you're speaking into existence. It is, in fact, the truth. When you say I'm following Jesus and I'm
Yeah, the
going
Holy
this
Spirit-
direction.
The Holy Spirit lives in me, and
Yes.
the
Yes.
Holy Spirit is loving, joyful, peaceful, patient, and kind. He is producing that in me. I have to choose to stuff that down.
Yeah.
I allow
Yes.
the anger in me to push that out. He's producing that in me all the time.
That's why Jesus said, remain in me,
Yes.
Right.
not work in me.
That's right.
You just remain connected, and that stuff will flow out
Yes,
of you.
exactly right.
Which comes back to what we just talked about, discipleship. I mean,
Yes,
it's just
yes.
connecting to Jesus every day and just allowing that life to flow out of you,
That's exactly
and it'll
right.
happen.
Well, and I think it's that part of it too, so remain in me, you'll produce much fruit, and apart from me, you do nothing. And so much of our life, I think we feel like I can just do this on my own, but Jesus says, no, anything of value you're going to do, it's not going to happen. And you can be a branch that's producing, or you can be a stick that falls on the ground and withers away and dies when you're not connected with me. And all the stick's good for is beating people over the head with it. So,
There's a lot of Christians.
which is it's often the way it works. I'm not connected.
That's a whole nother
Another
topic.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
All
another
right.
topic.
So this week is week 2, and I'm going to be talking this week. And I know Ed had mentioned on Sunday this was just the introduction. This week is when we're going to get practical.
Really practical.
We're gonna start talking about how to start a new habit, and we sort of touched on it a little bit. But I'm going to get real specific on methods that you can use to start building some of those little tiny changes into your life that will have big changes, impacts in your life, whatever you want to call it. And
You
so-
might say explosive bomb-like results.
atomic.
like.
Yes. The algorithms are going crazy. So, all right. So that's next Sunday. Make sure you're at one of our campuses for that.
Invite somebody.
Invite somebody
Yes,
to come with you.
please.
So, all right. Now we're coming to the very end of the podcast, which is we're going to have a segment that is going to be a recurring segment, and we're just simply calling it the Top 5.
The
top
top
five.
Because
the top 5.
It is a top 5 of whatever we decide.
Whatever.
It could be the top 5 anything. And we're going to rotate it around. Today is Nathan's turn
My turn.
to present the top 5 something. And we don't even know
We don't
what it
even
is.
know what the top
We don't
5
have
is.
a clue what this is
But
going to be.
here's what you'll find out about me. I do have an opinion on it.
On everything.
This is going to be great. And I think you guys will be able to have an opinion on this. I really struggle with a lot of different things because, I don't know, you did in our preview podcast,
We had a
you did
preview,
the top
yes.
5, and I know you have it for next week. So I don't know what you guys' thought process was around what even topic do we use, because I felt like very important things. Like I'm a big movie guy, and I thought, well, I could do top 5 films from last year, or top 5 films of the last decade, my kind of thing. Or in my world, right, for most of my life has been like the hip hop world, and so top 5 has a different meaning of top 5 rappers. And I thought, you guys are not going to have a lot of opinions on such
have a whole
things.
lot.
So
I don't have an opinion
So
on that.
I
I'm
decided not to
sorry.
go with that. But then the other world that I live in.
I like Chance the Rapper.
Okay, good. No, that's good. And he'd
I
probably
like
not top
Kanye.
five.
I
but
like
good.
Kanye now.
Kanye's in
now.
top five. Put Kanye in there. All right.
Okay.
But I decided the other world that I play in a lot these days, and especially when I was younger, is the NBA. I love the NBA. I love the Atlanta Hawks. And right now, my wife and I, who also loves watching the Hawks with me, we are playing a lot of NBA 2K20, which is the PS4. It's on all platforms, but the NBA game that you can do. So we play a lot of that together. We have 3 different teams for following through the season, but you can change out the uniforms based on, so past uniforms, current uniforms, all different kind of stuff, because as the NBA, as all professional sports, they like to sell uniforms. So
Yeah.
they have
That's
constant.
why you change them.
That's right.
So we're constantly playing with like a 1970s uniform on current players and all that kind of stuff. But I decided I would do my top 5 NBA uniforms of all time.
Wow.
All right. So
All right.
top 5 uniforms of all time.
And you brought visuals.
I brought visuals because I thought if I just said a team and the year, it probably wouldn't mean anything. So I'm gonna look over here, and hopefully you guys will be able to see these at home. So this is, as I will say, many of them are pretty current because I'm a young guy. I like the current stuff. So here we go. This is my number 5. This is the Miami Heat City. That's what they don't call them, home and away anymore. They have different names.
city one,
Association, Icon, and City. The city uniform for the Miami Heat, I think it was last year's.
I just
maybe
want to
2
know,
years
did you draw these?
No, but I should have. I should have. No, I printed them off. No, this is Bam. Oh,
Upside down.
This is Bam Adebayo
I've seen
right
that
there.
one. I've seen
Miami Heat. It's got that nice Miami
it's
Vice.
the Miami Vice
It's
look.
the 80s Miami Vice.
I will say this about Bam. That's a bad man. That dude can flat out play.
Yeah, he can.
If you have not seen
he's
him
insane.
play,
And does not get the reputation he deserves.
No.
He is often overlooked as the big on his team, but is absolutely wonderful.
I like the throwback feel of it, the 80s
Yeah.
kind of deal.
I don't see any of that. But then
Well, what's wonderful about this is a lot of it is color schemes, and if you don't know this about Ed, colors, they do
They don't
not
mean much.
they're like 5.
Yeah, he's only got a few. But there's also one that I really like. I think my wife prefers one. It's that baby blue kind of color, and this is in this is in the pink, and then there's some
That's
black lettering.
pink?
Yeah, well, it's
That
hard to
number
see
is
on
pink,
this.
Ed.
But yeah, but
It is not.
It's
Yeah.
a hot pink.
yeah, it's like a hot pink. It's those Miami Vice kind of color, and certainly the font has that Miami Vice feel. They're very limited.
Speaking of Miami Vice, when I was a young kid and that show was on and it was really, really hot, one Easter, I went and got a Don Johnson Miami Vice suit and wore it to church
No socks.
I had pink socks for
Oh,
my Easter suit on Sunday.
there you go.
There's gotta be a
Rocking the
picture
Don
floating around
Johnson.
You know
somewhere.
what?
If we can get that picture, Joel.
I would just like. I think your top 5 should be top 5 Jason Collins fashion choices.
way.
Well, maybe next time.
It'll
Maybe
be in
next
3
time.
weeks.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
All
So,
right,
okay, so that's
moving
my
on.
number 5.
Moving
All
on.
right, so I got to now remember what order. Okay, this is
Wow, Don Johnson, pink socks. All right.
Baby.
All right, this is my number 4, and it's incredibly biased. That's why I only put it as number 4. But this is the current city uniform for the Atlanta Hawks. You might have seen
seen
this before.
this.
The
The
Peachtree
Peachtree,
uniform.
yes.
I think that is a sharp-looking uniform right there, and that's Trey Young. That's my
Also a
ice.
really bad dude.
Yeah,
That dude is-
my,
that
my,
dude's-
my good old ice
He
Trey.
could just get some help.
Yes, if he get a little bit of help.
Man, that dude is awesome.
A little bit of help. So yeah, I really like that. I think it's a
It's
sharp
peach
looking
right there.
Yeah,
It's
just
a
a
peach
little bit
color.
of peach
On the piping there,
because
it's
the
a
peach tree.
That's right.
On the, you pointing at the shadows, Peach?
No,
No.
on the little
Yeah, the little
edges,
outline on the thing.
edges. That's peach.
Okay.
I think that's a good
He
one.
doesn't know that.
That looks white to me.
I know.
And a little bit of
That's why I'm telling
sponsorship
you.
on everything. Share Care. I don't really know what
Whatever
they
that is.
advertise it all the time, and I don't know
Brought
what.
to you by Share Care.
Yeah, Share Care. I think.
Share Care, we share and
I don't know
care.
what that one says.
All right.
All right.
Number 3.
Number 3. Here we go. All right, so number 3 is not a team I care anything for, but I really like this background. This is currently the Memphis Grizzlies, but everyone, as once again they're trying to sell everything, does a lot of throwback jerseys. They have a Vancouver Grizzlies, as they used to be before they came to Memphis. They were the
would not have
Vancouver
known that.
Grizzlies, and that's
Having grown up around Memphis, they should have stayed in Vancouver.
yeah, yeah.
They actually put Vancouver.
Vancouver's a better
They
choice.
put Vancouver right on there, Grizzlies
weird.
for that. It's like the Utah Jazz. You know, when you think of Jazz, you
think
of
Utah.
Utah.
Absolutely.
not New Orleans where they were originally.
Oh, and Grizzlies in
now they-
Memphis.
The good old Grizzly Bears in Memphis. So yeah, I think that's a sharp looking.
There is a grizzly in Memphis, and he wanders down the Mississippi River. Some Cajun's eating that thing.
That's a dead grizzly.
I'm just telling you, I'm eating with some Cajuns. That thing is getting eaten.
They'll eat whatever's in the river or out of the river. They don't care. Okay.
All right. Then this is number 2. If I'm not rooting for the Hawks, I am a big and I know it's probably controversial. I'm a big 76ers fan.
All right.
I like the 76ers, but in particular, I really like, and this was probably the last couple years I watched when I was young, and for high school I was not very into the NBA, but the Allen Iverson Sixers 2001, 2002 jersey, I've always liked that. That's just more sentimental for me, but I'm really into that Iverson jersey in
I
particular.
got no opinion on
I
that.
have nothing to say about
It's okay.
that.
It's all right.
It's fine.
No?
But I get it.
It's black, right?
Yeah,
black.
it is. It is black. It's black, and it looks almost velvety. And I always thought that at the time, like the material does not look.
It does look velvety.
It looks very soft. It looks very soft, which is appropriate for Allen Iverson, who was not very soft. So, all right. And then here's my number 1. This is also probably very nostalgic for me, but getting to play a lot of NBA games on the Sega Dreamcast back in the day. This team right here was wonderful, and they no longer exist. But this is the Seattle Supersonics.
Yes.
I've always liked the uniform through
That's
Seattle.
Kemp. I can't think
Yeah,
of his
Sean
name.
Kemp.
Sean Kemp.
That's
That's right.
Sean Kemp, wonderful player right there, Sean Kemp. I do think, and I haven't done this yet, but I do think on NBA 2K20 you can play as the Oklahoma City Thunder and play as Sean Kemp because the Sonics went to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder. So those are my top 5s. Once again, not necessarily teams, but I love the Sonics, and that's now all vintage because there are no Sonics anymore. So if you got one of those, you're in luck right there. So.
If you have one, why don't you contact Nathan?
Yeah, just give it to me. I would probably. Here's what I'll say: if you've got NBA jerseys you just want to give me, I'll wear one every Sunday. You give me one. Give me 52 jerseys.
Or
I'll
if
wear
you're
one.
with ShareCare and you'd like to sponsor this,
You like to
podcast,
sponsor this podcast? Whatever you do, it's something medical related.
I will mention your product.
It's a weird assortment of people too on the commercials. Like John Collins from the team, and then there's like Dominique Wilkins, which got me Wilkins, which kind of makes sense. And then of course Killer Mike, the rapper from Atlanta, also as for ShareCare. Well, his name is Killer Mike.
But
so
then imagine that they added Ed Martin.
he just added him in the mix. Nothing makes more sense. John Collins, Killer Mike, Ed Martin.
All right.
All right.
So next week it will be Ed bringing us the top 5.
Yeah, and here's what I would like to do for my top 5. I'd like to run a little contest this week. And so I would love for y'all in the comments to say what you want to hear the top 5 about. I'm not promising I'm going to do it because if you know me, I may not do what you asked me to do. But
He also may not remember what he chose
Yeah.
until we get to this stage
So,
to record.
I would love for y'all to comment on it. And here's what I'll do. If I choose your topic, I will personally give you a prize. And it'll be you will be glad that you got it. That's what I promise.
Are you sure about that?
I am. I'm going to give them a prize,
Absolutely
and
sure.
they're going to be happy that they got it.
Okay.
And okay. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Just stop talking.
I'm just
He's
gonna
not
stop
gonna
right-
promise something
See,
else.
I was about to promise a whole bunch of other things.
I know you
Don't do
were.
it. Don't do it. Leave it
All right,
there.
we'll stop right there. Send me
right.
in your suggestion. What top 5 would you like to hear about?
From Ed.
From
you.
me.
Yes. All right.
I might choose it.
Maybe. Okay. So that's it. That's it for us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week if they don't tell us to stop.
Yeah.
ShareCare, call me.
That's how that happened. See you Sunday.